The observation deck hummed with a quiet intensity that spoke of years of preparation, decades of scientific breakthrough, and generations of human determination. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood motionless, her reflection barely visible against the holographic star chart that dominated the circular room. Surrounding her, a team of scientists, engineers, and military strategists represented the pinnacle of human potential. The chart before them was no ordinary map. Intricate lines of quantum probability danced and shifted, each vector representing potential trajectories through the most complex strategic environment humanity had ever encountered. Blues, greens, and soft purples intertwined, creating a living tapestry of mathematical possibility. 63 years, Dr. Marcus Chen muttered, adjusting his neural interface. The device, barely visible behind his ear, connected directly to the ship's computational systems. 63 years of research, and we're finally here. Elena understood the weight of those words. The project had begun in the aftermath of humanity's first disastrous encounter with the Galactic Concordance. That initial meeting had been a humiliation. Human diplomats treated as primitive curiosities, their technological achievements dismissed as crude and irrelevant. The first contact had occurred during a routine deep space exploration mission. A human research vessel, exploring the outer reaches of the Orion Arm, had been intercepted by a Concordance patrol. The encounter was brief but devastating. The alien communication was a mix of condescension and barely concealed contempt. Humanity was labeled as a developing species, too technologically immature to be considered a serious galactic civilization. But some had seen this as an opportunity rather than a defeat. A secret consortium of the world's most brilliant minds came together. Government agencies, private research institutions, and independent think tanks formed an unprecedented alliance. Their goal was simple yet seemingly impossible: to create a technological marvel that would demonstrate humanity's true potential. The U.S. Defiance was more than a ship. It was a statement. Elena's fingers traced a complex path across the holographic display. Each movement activated secondary computational layers, revealing deeper strategic insights. The ship's systems responded to her touch with an almost intuitive precision. Layers of quantum-based intelligence anticipating her next thought. Probability matrix is stabilizing, announced Dr. Yuki Nakamura, the ship's lead quantum physicist. Her hands moved rapidly across a translucent interface, molecular-level simulations flickering with each gesture. Initial calculations suggest a 94.7% chance of successful engagement. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what successful engagement truly meant. The Concordance's Crimson Armada was more than a military force. It was a symbol of galactic technological supremacy. Composed of 247 capital ships, each vessel larger than most terrestrial moons, the Armada had never known defeat. Until today. System diagnostic complete, called out the ship's primary computational network. The voice was neutral, devoid of emotion, yet somehow conveying a sense of readiness that sent a subtle shiver through the observation deck. Elena's background told a story of preparation. Born to a family of aerospace engineers, she had been groomed for this moment her entire life. Her childhood was filled with advanced mathematical tutorials, quantum mechanics simulations, and strategic training that went far beyond traditional military education. "Final system check," she announced, her voice calm and precise. The team moved with synchronized efficiency. Each member knew their role, each action calculated and purposeful. Decades of research, billions in funding, and the collective hopes of an entire species were concentrated in this single moment. Outside the ship's quantum-shielded hull, space itself seemed to hold its breath. The universe waited, unaware that everything was about to change. Dr. Chen approached Elena, a holographic display projecting from his neural interface. "We're ready," he said simply. No additional words were necessary. The impossible mission was about to begin. The engineering core of the U.S. Defiance pulsed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. Crystalline data interfaces lined the walls, each surface a complex network of quantum reactive materials that seemed to breathe with an almost organic intelligence. Dr. Marcus Chen moved through the space like a conductor, his touch creating ripples of computational activity that transformed the very fabric of the ship's technological ecosystem. Beneath the surface, the ship represented humanity's most audacious technological achievement. Its development had been a global project that spanned continents, disciplines, and generations. The first conceptual designs emerged from a collaborative think tank in Bangalore, where a group of young engineers proposed a radical approach to space travel that most scientific communities had dismissed as pure fantasy. The quantum drive system was the heart of this technological marvel. Unlike traditional propulsion methods that rely on chemical reactions or nuclear power, the Defiance's drive manipulated the fundamental fabric of space-time. Each molecular component was crafted from a revolutionary nanocomposite material developed through a breakthrough in quantum engineering. Dr. Isabelle Rousseau, the project's materials scientist, remembered the moment of discovery. It had happened in a small laboratory in Montreal, during a late-night experiment that was meant to explore molecular bonding at extreme temperatures. The initial sample had done something impossible. It had simultaneously existed in multiple states, defying every known law of physics. It wasn't just a material, she would later explain in her classified reports. It was a living system of information and potential. The ship's computational network was equally revolutionary. Developed through a combination of quantum computing, neural network algorithms, and adaptive learning systems, it could process complex scenarios faster than entire planetary supercomputers. Unlike traditional artificial intelligence, this system was a symbiotic network that integrated seamlessly with human intuition and decision-making. Each system on the Defiance told a story of human innovation. The adaptive hull, for instance, was composed of molecular layers that could reconfigure themselves instantaneously. Incoming energy weapons would find themselves dispersed, absorbed, or reflected before they could cause any significant damage. It was less a shield and more a living, responsive membrane. Power generation represented another breakthrough. Traditional fusion and antimatter systems seemed primitive by comparison. The Defiance drew energy directly from quantum fluctuations in spacetime, a concept that had been purely theoretical just decades earlier. Each energy cycle was so efficient that the ship could potentially operate for centuries without requiring any external fuel source. Dr. Chen paused at a primary computational interface, his fingers dancing across surfaces that responded to his slightest touch. Holographic displays bloomed around him, each representing a different subsystem of the massive vessel. Navigation algorithms calculated potential trajectories that would have been considered impossible just years before. Defensive protocols mapped out potential threat scenarios with mind-bending complexity. The project had not been without its challenges. Early prototypes had failed spectacularly. One experimental drive system had nearly torn a research facility apart, creating a quantum distortion that took months to stabilize. Another iteration had caused such complex computational feedback that it temporarily disrupted electronic systems across an entire research campus. But each failure brought new understanding. Each setback was a lesson, carefully documented and integrated into the next iteration. Funding had been another obstacle. The project existed in a complex web of international research grants, private investments, and classified military budgets. Some nations saw it as humanity's ultimate defensive technology. Others viewed it as a potential instrument of exploration that could extend human presence beyond known space. The team was equally diverse. Engineers from Tokyo worked alongside programmers from Sao Paulo. Quantum physicists from Cambridge collaborated with material scientists from Shanghai. It was a truly global endeavor, united by a single vision of pushing the boundaries of human potential. As Dr. Chen completed his system diagnostics, he understood the profound significance of their work. This was more than a ship. It was a testament to human curiosity, creativity, and an unrelenting drive to understand and reshape the universe. The Defiance represented humanity's quantum leap, quite literally. Outside the ship's quantum-shielded hull, the vast emptiness of space waited, unaware that everything was about to change. The communication burst from the Concordance arrived with the subtlety of a quantum shockwave. It materialized in the Defiance's primary communication array, a complex transmission that simultaneously existed across multiple communication spectrums. Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the message, her eyes reflecting the holographic display that transformed the bridge into a three-dimensional battlefield of information. The Crimson Armada's declaration was both a threat and a performance, a ritualistic display of galactic dominance that had maintained the Concordance's political structure for millennia. Their language was a complex tapestry of mathematical precision and cultural nuance, designed to convey multiple layers of meaning simultaneously. Dr. Yuki Nakamura worked furiously at her station, translating and parsing the transmission. "It's more than a simple threat," she muttered, her fingers dancing across quantum-responsive interfaces. "They're presenting a formal challenge according to their diplomatic protocols." The challenge was rooted in the complex history of First Contact. Humanity's initial encounter with the Galactic Concordance had been a moment of profound humiliation. A routine deep space exploration mission had been intercepted, with human representatives treated as primitive curiosities, barely advanced enough to be considered sentient. The Concordance operated on a hierarchical system that categorized species based on technological capability. Humanity had been relegated to the lowest tier, a classification that suggested they were generations away from being considered a serious galactic civilization. It was a designation that burned in the minds of every human who understood its implications. Elena remembered the diplomatic recordings. The Concordance representative had been almost clinical in its dismissal. "Your species demonstrates minimal quantum comprehension," the alien diplomat had stated. "Your technological achievements are comparable to early developmental stages of known spacefaring civilizations." But some saw this as an opportunity rather than a defeat. The Crimson Armada represented the pinnacle of the Concordance's military might. 247 capital ships assembled like a metallic constellation, each vessel larger than most terrestrial moons. Their weapon systems could vaporize planetary surfaces, manipulate gravitational fields, and disrupt molecular structures with casual precision. Dr. Marcus Chen analyzed the transmission's underlying quantum signatures. "They're giving us exactly 72 standard galactic hours to surrender," he reported. "It's a ritualistic challenge. They've already determined the outcome in their computational models." The bridge crew exchanged knowing glances. Those computational models didn't know the U.S. defiance. Communication protocols demanded a response. But this was not a simple military engagement. It was a moment of cultural confrontation, a test of technological and strategic capability that would define humanity's place in the galactic community. Elena understood the multiple layers of the challenge. It was psychological warfare, as much as a potential military conflict. The Concordance hoped to demonstrate humanity's technological inferiority, to reinforce their established hierarchical understanding of spacefaring civilizations. Historical records showed a pattern. Species that failed to meet the Concordance's technological standards were systematically marginalized. Some were restricted to their home systems. Others were simply ignored, their potential for growth deliberately suppressed through complex diplomatic mechanisms. But humanity had been preparing. The secret consortium that developed the Defiance understood that this was more than a potential military engagement. It was an opportunity to redefine humanity's galactic narrative. The ship's computational systems began processing the challenge with a complexity that would have been unimaginable just decades earlier. Multiple scenario matrices bloomed across secondary displays, each one an intricate dance of potential strategic responses. Dr. Nakamura looked up from her station, a rare smile crossing her face. "They have no idea what's coming." The communication array hummed with potential energy. The challenge had been issued. The response was being prepared. The universe held its breath. The preparation room buzzed with an energy that defied conventional understanding. Holographic displays transformed the space into a living, breathing strategic ecosystem. Each member of the Defiance's core team moved with a precision that spoke of years of synchronized training and mutual understanding. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the center of a quantum simulation matrix, his hands moving through layers of computational possibility. The preparation was more than a military strategy. It was a comprehensive deconstruction of potential engagement scenarios that would have been impossible to model just a decade earlier. "Quantum probability matrices are stabilizing," he announced, his voice calm despite the incredible complexity of the task. Surrounding him, team members from diverse scientific backgrounds worked in perfect harmony. A quantum physicist from Beijing collaborated seamlessly with a computational strategist from Sao Paulo, their neural interfaces creating a collective intelligence that transcended individual capabilities. The ship's preparatory protocols went far beyond traditional military readiness. Each system was a living, adaptive network that could reconfigure itself faster than the human mind could comprehend. Defensive capabilities were not just about blocking incoming threats, they were about understanding and predicting them at a fundamental level. Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez, no relation to the captain, oversaw the tactical simulations. Her background in sino-strategic analysis made her uniquely qualified for this moment. She had spent years studying Concordance military doctrines, analyzing their communication patterns, and understanding the deep cultural motivations behind their military strategies. "Their fleet operates on a hierarchical computational model," she explained, highlighting intricate pathways on a holographic display. "Each ship is both an individual unit and part of a collective computational network. They believe in centralized decision-making as a fundamental strategic principle." The team had spent years developing strategies to exploit this fundamental weakness. The Defiance was designed to be something entirely different, a vessel that could think and adapt at a level the Concordance couldn't comprehend. Training simulations flickered across secondary screens. Each scenario was a complex dance of potential interactions, mapped out with mathematical precision. The team had run millions of iterations, each one revealing new layers of strategic potential. Dr. Yuki Nakamura focused on the ship's quantum drive system. "Our primary advantage is unpredictability," she explained, her fingers tracing complex computational paths. "Traditional faster-than-light travel is about linear movement. We're developing something fundamentally different, a system that can exist in multiple potential states simultaneously." The implications were profound. Where the Concordance saw space as a fixed environment to be traversed, humanity was learning to see it as a malleable system of infinite potential. Psychological preparation was equally crucial. Each crew member underwent intensive training that went far beyond traditional military preparation. They were not just preparing to operate a ship, they were preparing to represent an entire species on a galactic stage. "This is more than a military engagement," Captain Alina Rodriguez had emphasized during their final briefing. "This is a moment of cultural communication. Every action we take will be analyzed, interpreted, and used to define humanity's place in the galactic community." The preparation room reflected this philosophy. Scientific instruments mixed with cultural analysis tools. Linguistic databases sat alongside quantum computational systems. This was not just a military vessel, it was a comprehensive expression of human potential. Dr. Chen completed his final system diagnostics. The computational networks responded with a complexity that bordered on sentience. Each system was prepared, each potential scenario mapped and countermapped with incredible precision. Outside the ship's quantum-shielded hull, space waited. The Concordance's Crimson Armada was assembling, completely unaware of the technological marvel that was preparing to challenge everything they understood about warfare, intelligence, and potential. "We are ready," Dr. Chen announced simply. The universe held its breath. Space folded and twisted around the U.S. Defiance in ways that defied conventional understanding. The ship existed in a state of quantum potential, simultaneously present and not present, a technological marvel that challenged the very foundations of spatial perception. Captain Alina Rodriguez sat motionless in the command chair, her breathing measured and calm. Around her, the bridge crew moved with a synchronicity that bordered on telepathic communication. Each station was a complex ecosystem of computational power, holographic displays, shifting and dancing with intricate probability matrices. The Crimson Armada emerged from quantum transit like a metallic nightmare. 247 capital ships arranged in a geometrically perfect formation that spoke of millennia of military tradition. Each vessel was larger than most terrestrial moons, their weapon systems a testament to the Concordance's technological might. "Incoming communication," announced Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez, her fingers dancing across quantum-responsive interfaces, multiple channels, simultaneous transmission. The alien communication was a complex symphony of mathematical precision and cultural nuance. Most species would have been overwhelmed by the sheer complexity of the transmission. But the Defiance was no ordinary vessel. Dr. Yuki Nakamura worked furiously at her station, parsing the multilayered message. "It's a formal declaration of engagement," she translated, her voice steady. "They're following precise diplomatic protocols established over thousands of years of galactic interactions." The primary communication burst contained multiple layers of meaning. On the surface, it was a demand for immediate surrender. Beneath that, it was a ritualistic display of technological superiority, a message designed to demonstrate the Concordance's unquestionable dominance. Dr. Marcus Chen studied the transmission's quantum signatures. "They're giving us precisely 17 standard galactic minutes to surrender," he reported. "It's part of their cultural engagement protocol, a ceremonial moment of potential capitulation before total destruction." The bridge crew exchanged knowing glances. Those protocols didn't account for the U.S. Defiance. Captain Rodriguez's response was measured, almost contemplative. "Open primary communication channel," she commanded. The ship's communication systems came alive, not as a weapon, but as a bridge of understanding. The transmission was a masterpiece of computational linguistics, a message that would be simultaneously translated across multiple communication spectrums. "This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the United Earth vessel Defiance," she began. The words were simple, but the underlying quantum communication carried layers of meaning that would take xenolinguists generations to fully decode. The Concordance fleet's formation began to adjust. Weapon systems charged with an energy that could vaporize entire planetary surfaces. Their computational networks were already calculating the most efficient methods of total destruction. But something was different. Dr. Nakamura's eyes widened. "They're experiencing computational interference," she reported. The ship's quantum communication systems were doing something unprecedented, not attacking, but fundamentally challenging the Concordance's understanding of communication and technological interaction. Space itself seemed to ripple around the Defiance. The ship was more than a physical vessel. It was a living demonstration of humanity's potential for innovation, adaptation, and understanding. The Crimson Armada's perfect formation began to destabilize. Microscopic computational anomalies spread through their interconnected systems. Not a direct attack, but a fundamental challenge to their most basic operational protocols. "Engagement protocols are active," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez announced. But this was not a traditional military engagement. It was a moment of first true communication. The universe held its breath. Humanity was about to make its statement. The moment of engagement defied every known principle of space warfare. The U.S. Defiance moved with a fluidity that challenged the fundamental understanding of physical motion. It was less a ship and more a living computational entity that happened to have a physical form. Space itself seemed to breathe around the vessel. Quantum drives created ripples of potential reality, each movement simultaneously occurring and not occurring. The Crimson Armada's perfect geometric formation began to fracture, their interconnected computational networks experiencing something beyond simple interference. "Quantum displacement at 87% efficiency," Dr. Yuki Nakamura called out, her voice a study in professional calm. Holographic displays around her station showed impossible trajectories, paths that folded space rather than simply traversing it. Captain Elena Rodriguez watched the engagement unfold with a detached precision. This was not a traditional battle. It was a complex dialogue conducted through the language of physics, computational systems, and pure potential. The first Concordance weapon discharge should have been devastating. Massive energy weapons capable of splitting planetary crusts fired with precision that had maintained their galactic dominance for millennia. But something extraordinary happened. The energy weapons seemed to lose coherence the moment they approached the Defiance. Not deflected, not absorbed, simply unraveled. Dr. Marcus Chen observed the phenomenon with scientific fascination. Their weapon systems are encountering quantum-level interference, he explained. We're not blocking their attacks. We're fundamentally changing their computational potential. Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez managed the ship's defensive and offensive protocols. But these were not traditional military actions. Each movement was a complex mathematical statement, a demonstration of humanity's fundamental approach to problem-solving. The Crimson Armada's ships began to experience systemic failures, not through direct attack, but through a sophisticated form of computational communication that challenged their most basic operational principles. Weapons systems would charge and then dissipate. Navigation protocols would engage and then become hopelessly confused. They're trying to understand. Dr. Nakamura observed, our systems are speaking a language they've never encountered. Each Concordance vessel represented thousands of years of technological development. Massive capital ships that could destroy entire solar systems found themselves becoming progressively less functional. Not through violence, but through a fundamental challenge to their understanding of technological interaction. The battle, if it could be called that, was unlike anything in galactic military history. The Defiance was not destroying the Crimson Armada. It was teaching them something profound about the nature of technological potential. Quantum drives created corridors of potential reality. The ship existed in multiple states simultaneously, a living demonstration of computational and physical possibility that the Concordance computational networks could not comprehend. 73% of their fleet is now experiencing primary system failures. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez reported. Her voice was neutral, but her eyes reflected a profound understanding of the moment's significance. This was more than a military engagement. It was a moment of first true communication. Dr. Chen studied the computational interactions. We're not just defeating their systems, he explained. We're demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to technological development. They see technology as a tool of control. We see it as a method of understanding. The remaining Concordance ships began to retreat, not out of fear, but out of a growing computational confusion that bordered on a philosophical crisis. Their entire understanding of technological hierarchy was being challenged at a fundamental level. Space around the Defiance continued to ripple with quantum potential. Each moment was a complex mathematical statement, a demonstration of humanity's capacity for innovation, adaptation, and understanding. Engagement protocols completing, Captain Rodriguez announced. But these were not words of victory. They were an invitation to a new form of communication. The universe watched, fundamentally changed. The communication networks of the galactic community exploded with impossible information. Quantum data streams carried reports that challenged every established understanding of technological capability, interspecies interaction, and the fundamental nature of space warfare. In the primary communication hub of the Concordance Central Administration, holographic displays flickered with unprecedented data. Hundreds of species watched as the most powerful military force in known space had been rendered completely non-functional by a single vessel from a species previously considered technologically irrelevant. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, no longer just a captain, but now a pivotal figure in galactic history, sat in calm contemplation. The bridge of the U.S. Defiance had transformed from a military command center to a nexus of potential understanding. Around her, the crew moved with a sense of purpose that transcended traditional military protocols. Incoming diplomatic communication channels, Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez announced. The communication arrays were experiencing unprecedented activity. Not just from the Concordance, but from dozens of other spacefaring civilizations who had been watching the engagement. Dr. Marcus Chen analyzed the incoming transmissions. "It's not just a military report," he explained. "These are computational queries. They're trying to understand how we achieved what we just did." The transformation went beyond a simple military engagement. The Defiance had demonstrated something far more profound, a fundamentally different approach to technological development, communication, and problem-solving. Quantum data streams revealed the depth of the Crimson Armada's defeat. It wasn't that the ships had been destroyed. They had been fundamentally challenged at a computational level. Weapon systems, navigation protocols, and communication networks had been rendered inoperable through a method that defied traditional understanding of technological warfare. Dr. Yuki Nakamura worked furiously, parsing the incoming data streams. "They're experiencing a computational paradigm shift," she reported. "Our engagement wasn't an attack. It was a form of communication they've never encountered." The Galactic communication network struggled to process the information. How could a single vessel from a species considered technologically primitive have neutralized the most powerful military force in known space? Diplomatic channels from multiple species began to light up. Some expressed fear, others showed intense curiosity. A few demonstrated a level of excitement that bordered on scientific euphoria. "We're receiving direct communication requests," Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez reported. "Not just from the Concordance. Multiple independent species are seeking direct contact." The transformation was complete. Humanity was no longer being viewed as a developing species. They were now a civilization that had fundamentally challenged the established understanding of technological potential. Dr. Chen studied the computational interactions. "It's about more than military capability," he explained. "We've demonstrated a different approach to technological development. The Concordance sees technology as a tool of control. We see it as a method of understanding and communication." Holographic displays across the bridge showed the complex web of communication networks. Each transmission was a quantum-level interaction that carried layers of meaning far beyond simple linguistic communication. The crew of the Defiance understood the profound nature of the moment. This was not a victory in the traditional sense. It was an invitation to a new form of galactic interaction. Captain Rodriguez's final transmission to the Concordance leadership was simple yet profound. "We are not here to conquer," the message read. "We are here to understand." The universe seemed to pause, processing the implications. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic interaction, and they were just getting started. The quantum wake of the U.S. Defiance rippled through galactic communication networks like a transformative wave of potential. Space itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to understand the profound implications of what had just occurred. Dr. Marcus Chen stood at the primary computational interface, analyzing the cascade of incoming transmissions. What had begun as a potential military engagement had become something far more complex, a moment of first true communication that would reshape galactic understanding. "We're receiving diplomatic communication requests from 17 different species," Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez reported. Her voice carried a mix of professional calm and barely contained excitement. "Multiple communication protocols, simultaneous transmissions." Captain Elena Rodriguez studied the holographic displays that transformed the bridge into a living network of potential interaction. This was more than a diplomatic moment. It was a fundamental reshaping of galactic relations. The Concordance's leadership found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Their most powerful military force had been rendered completely non-functional, not through direct destruction, but through a form of technological communication they could not comprehend. Entire computational networks were struggling to process the engagement. Dr. Yuki Nakamura worked furiously, parsing the complex data streams. "They're not just requesting information," she explained. "They're attempting to understand our fundamental approach to technological development." Humanity had done something extraordinary. Instead of responding to the Concordance's challenge with traditional military might, they had demonstrated a fundamentally different approach to technological interaction. The Defiance was more than a ship. It was a living demonstration of human potential for innovation, adaptation, and understanding. The first official diplomatic communication from the Concordance arrived with a complexity that spoke volumes. It was less a message of surrender and more a request for comprehensive understanding. Layers of mathematical precision intertwined with cultural nuance, revealing the depth of their computational confusion. They want to understand how we achieved what we did, Dr. Chen observed. Not just the technological mechanism, but the philosophical approach. Holographic displays across the bridge show the intricate web of communication networks. Each transmission carried multiple layers of meaning, quantum-level interactions that went far beyond traditional linguistic communication. Captain Rodriguez understood the profound nature of the moment. This was an opportunity to redefine humanity's place in the galactic community. Not through force, but through a demonstration of innovative potential. Her response was carefully crafted. A transmission that was simultaneously a technical report, a philosophical statement, and an invitation to deeper understanding. Our technology is an extension of our curiosity, the message read. We do not seek to control. We seek to understand. The crew of the Defiance represented the best of human potential. Scientists, military personnel, and computational experts who saw beyond traditional boundaries. Each member understood that this moment was about more than a single engagement. It was about reshaping galactic understanding. Diplomatic channels from multiple species began to light up. Some expressed fear. Others showed intense curiosity. A few demonstrated a level of excitement that bordered on scientific euphoria. Dr. Chen continued analyzing the incoming transmissions. We're not just sharing technological information, he explained. We're demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to technological development. The Concordance sees technology as a tool of control. We see it as a method of understanding and communication. The universe seemed to pause, processing the implications. Humanity had just rewritten the rules of galactic interaction, not through military might, but through a profound demonstration of innovative potential. The U.S. Defiance was more than a ship. It was a statement of human capability. As quantum drives prepared for the next potential trajectory, Captain Rodriguez looked out at the vast complexity of space. This was not an ending. This was a beginning. The first true conversation between humanity and the broader galactic community was about to begin.